Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DCProject.
Well, here we are. So welcome to Women for Gun Rights with my guest, Susan Lathrop. So this is a show that we do on a weekly basis that talks about women and guns and Second Amendment and the issues associated with all of that. So thanks for joining us, Susan.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem at all, because you are an institution, I would say, in the industry. I mean, you have been involved and active for so long. And as we talk to some of the gals, it's really kind of interesting. And I'm not discounting or discrediting the work and the effort that they've done, but in talking to some of them, they're like, yeah, 2 years ago I bought a gun, got some training, and now I'm extremely active. And we love that. But you've got years on them because you have been extremely active in the Second Amendment and the Second Amendment activist portion for more than 10 years. Have you not?
Yeah, about a little over 10 years.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
Paul started a podcast and I kind of got dragged along for the ride and then got more and more and more into it and started this and that and this and that and just little by little, and here I am.
Well, there you go. And it's, I've seen you two in action. There is no you got drug into it. I mean, you two are like lock and key. You work together. You're a partnership that is pretty darn amazing. And the first time that I participated or got to see your show, you were doing all of the DGUs and the news segments. So, I mean, you have an amazing voice and an amazing ability to read those and do that. And since then, things have shifted a little bit. But you spent quite a few years being the voice of the Polite Society podcast.
And eventually, fairly soon, I will be back to being the voice. Paul and I have recently switched offices in our house, and things are a little chaotic at the moment. We're trying to get everything put together and back the way it was. Mm-hmm. And once we do that, I will go back to being the voice and we'll be doing the news and the DGUs.
There you go. So it's always good because I love how the cadence and how you read it, and I'm a fan. We'll just say. And
well, thank you.
There's times when I'm a guest on that show, and they were like, "You want to read a DGU?" And I was like, "Don't pick me, but don't pick me." And so I appreciate the fact that the whole reading cadence thing.
See, and that's while you guys are talking about all the stories, that's where I'm here. I'm reading show notes. I'm kind of going over it in my head because I don't have to worry about doing all the this is this and that is that and this is what he should have done, and I can sit there and read and go over it a couple of times, so when you go, okay, Sue, let's move on to the next one, I can go boom right into it. Mm-hmm. So makes it easier.
Well, don't discount the craft associated with it, because there is experience and effort that goes into that. So you are the DCProject State Director for South Dakota.
Correct.
So how is that going?
Tough.
Okay.
We're working on it.
Uh-huh.
South Dakota is a constitutional permitless carry, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of people here aren't worried about losing their gun rights. Okay. We're a Republican stronghold. They're like, no, man, the Democrats will never come and take our gun rights. Not here, not in South Dakota. So a lot of people are just like, well, I don't really see that there's a threat. So, but we're working on it. We're slowly gathering support, and I've contacted a few key people, several friends, and we're working on getting that lined up.
Okay, because the structure is that if you've got a state that is a stronghold like your state is, that gives hope to people who live in like Illinois.
Or New Jersey.
New Jersey or New York. So it is as critical to have involvement of the folks from the states that are, as Charlie Cook puts it, free America, as
Yes.
as it is for those who are in the trenches in a state that is just, you just keep going, man, I cannot believe they passed that and that
Right.
and that, right? So
And what the heck?
right, exactly. So it's a little bit of all of that, but I could see where trying to get volunteers to be active and involved on a state level would be a little harder because they don't see the urgency. They don't see
Yeah.
that the place where they need to stick their feet in, lock them down, and not allow it to budge 1 inch
Yeah.
in the wrong direction.
Right. Mary Youngberg, who was the state director before me,
Mm-hmm.
did a lot in getting some key people, and she knows several media people. One lady who owns her own radio station. She knows several people who are associated with the state legislature. So we're working on getting our key people, our social media people, so we can start getting the word out on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Our legislative, well, crud, what is the word I'm looking for here?
So
Liaison.
okay.
So we're working on getting those key people in place so that when the legislative session goes into effect in January, we'll be able to get people there to start talking to people and start getting our word out about the DC project.
Mm-hmm. And to understand if there's any bills or anything that's happening within the state that really calls you to have to call into action. Um, yeah,
Right.
because it's hard. It's a lot of work to track all the bills, and that's where to me SAF and NRA and those groups have such value because they have people who read every bill, mining them and looking for is a gun or anti-gun thing shoved into a budget bill or into the naming the state flower. They had an anti-gun bill in one of the states that was shoved into a Parks and Recreation bill. So
What?
yeah, so they have to it's not just okay, the constitutional carry bill is up or concealed carry modification is up, or it's every bill. And so you have to, so tuning into those organizations to see their highlights so that you have an idea of what's going on, what it looks like, and what's coming at us is critical. But you're fairly new, and so you said yes, I'll be the state director, and then the summit came along. So did you get some stuff in the summit that is helping you start to structure this? Because it's a two-part question, because the second part of this is I want to be able to use this to talk to other brand new state directors when they're like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. It's everybody starts that way and they have to build it up. So go ahead.
And go from there.
Mm-hmm.
When we were at the summit in Gainesville, I learned so much. My head is still I am still trying to get through all of my notes that I took, and I have
Mm-hmm.
screenshots and camera shots on my phone that I'm trying to get all the information written down and all in one area and go through all the paperwork that was handed out. And it's just crazy the amount of knowledge that I gained going through that.
That's
What was the other part?
that is good. So no, it really is, the summit will give you the basis for what you need to be putting together within your state, but you can't expect to put it together all in a day. It's like pieces by
Right.
pieces by pieces,
It's
and how do you
it's
do that?
it's going to take time. You gradually make the contacts. Like I said, Mary got some people lined up and
Mm-hmm.
involved in this. I have been hitting the gun range, our local gun range, the
Mm-hmm.
Alliance. Every Thursday night they have a shoot then sip ladies' night.
Okay.
So I've been out there talking to the ladies while they're shooting and looking at the guns and the range and all that. I've been checking with some of the local gun shops and
Mm-hmm.
asking if I can leave brochures explaining the DC project for them to either leave on the counter or hand out to women who buy firearms.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to look for the opening where and when it is, and kind of step in and go, hey, let me talk to you for just a minute, okay?
Right, and that makes so much sense because the stuff that the DC Project does is so critical across the nation, and name recognition is a big piece of what we're hoping to gain in the next couple of years, because name recognition is frankly is everything. That is what gets people invited to go talk to their legislators. That is what will get you invited to talk to the state legislators if they have a bill that needs testimony. Then once they know the name, that's they will reach out. So those types of things come with time, come with communication, but name recognition is a huge piece of it, a huge piece. So so let's move on to some of the things that you have done that are pretty darn amazing. So you have been at the Gun Rights Policy Conference for I don't how many years? Do you
6 years.
6 years?
6 years we've been. My first one was good. The second one, I was in a wheelchair because I
Okay.
just had foot surgery. The third one was good. Third one, fourth one were good. The fifth one, um, well, the fourth one, Paul almost got robbed. The fifth one, I was good, and the last one, I had rotator cuff surgery.
There you go. And then there's been two that have been virtual.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So 8 years of gun rights policy conference and your involvement, and so you guys have been there. And to me, tell folks a little bit about what gun rights policy conference is, because there's so I think it's probably one of the best kept secrets in the industry. And people just don't know about it. And once they learn, then they attend, and then they never stop.
Gun rights policy is fabulous. It is a large group of like minded people getting together. You will hear from a lot of different speakers. You'll hear from some of the different state speakers saying, "Hey, this is what's going on in our state. This is what's bad. This is what we need to work on. This is what happened in our state," and it's fabulous. We love it. You'll hear from some lawyers to hear about some of the different legislative stuff and the legal stuff, what we need to be concerned about. You'll hear from people trying to teach you and tell you about how to reach people outside the gun community,
Hmm.
and the networking. The main reason I go, quite honestly, is for the networking and the people you meet. That's how we met you and Cheryl
Hmm.
Todd, met Tom Gresham, Sarah Cade. A ton of our friends we have met through gun rights policy.
Hmm. To me, it is when you go and you will see Tom Gresham, Mark Walters, AWR Hawkins, Dr. John Lott. It's a place that you can go stand shoulder to shoulder and talk to these folks. And later you can name drop that you talk to them because they're so amazing in the industry and they're doing so many things. I mean, I met Sydney Powell at one of the gun rights policy conferences where she was selling her book about the Enron scandal, License to Lie. Yeah, so now when you see her on the news, it's like, well, yeah, we've met her, we've
I
talked,
know
we
her.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, we have met people like Tom Gresham, Dr. John Lott, Dr. John Adine with the DRGO.
Oh yes.
George Zimmerman. We interviewed George Zimmerman several years ago while we were at the Gun Rights Policy Conference about that whole fiasco down there. We've just met a lot of people: Charlie Cook, Alan Gottlieb, Dave Workman.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty amazing, and they're talking about what they are doing, how fast they are paddling in their area of expertise, or in their community, or in their state, or in their, and so you get this whole stack of different pieces of information that are all happening that you couldn't absorb any other way, I don't think, in that kind of a
no,
time frame.
no, it's a lot of information, but it's given to you in a good way, so you can.
Mm-hmm.
And they come out with the schedule. So if there's something that interests you, you can make sure you're there for that
Mm-hmm.
particular talk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like, well, I really don't need to hear about some of the legal stuff, I'm going to go out in the other room and meet some people. So, and that's when you get to do your networking. But you also
Mm-hmm.
have the lunches, you have the buffets at night, all the
Mm-hmm.
socializing.
Right.
It's a crazy whirlwind of activity that I would not give up for anything.
Well, there you go. And so it's typically held when and where?
It is usually held the last weekend in September, and the location varies. It has been in Dallas, Phoenix, Tampa, Chicago.
Yeah,
Those are the ones that I've been to.
yeah.
Those are the ones that I've been to. Phoenix twice, Dallas twice, Chicago, Tampa. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's six. It's been to Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Some past ones have been in Pennsylvania. I think they've had one. New
Mm-hmm.
York. They usually try to keep them fairly centralized so it's easier for people to get to, and usually near a major hub, so you don't have to take a flight and then jump on a little puddle hopper and
Mm-hmm.
go from there.
Right. So they're looking at
So
it. And the attendance at the last one that we met in real life was like 1,200 people in the audience when people were speaking. And
right,
so it's like you have an audience of 1,200 people to hear Second Amendment issues. That's that's
yes,
pretty darned amazing.
and then you set up the equipment, and we broadcast it, and we get thousands and thousands more to really spread the message.
So when you say we broadcast it, that is you and
We
Paul stack up, pack up everything out of South Dakota, drive it to someplace else in the United States, set up the portable studio in its entirety, and then work the entire weekend to make sure that all audio is happening and video too.
and the video, and
Yeah.
then Sunday afternoon when it's over, we tear it all down, pack it all up, put it in our car, and then drive back to South Dakota,
There you go.
and then
So
set it all up.
So you guys have been doing that since not your first gun rights policy conference, but the second one, and you've been doing it ever
Right.
since.
Yes.
Okay.
So it keeps it interesting. And we have gradually gone from doing just video to doing video and audio. So it's kind of expanding as time goes along.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
and the studio keeps expanding. We've gone from one monitor and a small mixer to one, two, three, four, five monitors and a big mixer and the small mixer and all these stream deck things. And
I,
I don't, I
yeah.
am not used to sitting in this chair. My office is behind me.
Uh,
It doesn't have half of this stuff. I've got one computer, two computers. That's it.
that's it.
And
So,
one of them's turned on. The other one I use as a backup.
well, it's pretty amazing. I was there. I was in South Dakota when you and Paul hosted a Mag 40 class with Masad
Yep.
Ayub, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And so I got an opportunity to see the Mad Scientist studio in person, and I definitely can. Yeah, multiple stream decks, and there's a lot of technology that happens both there, because he does, your husband, I think this is a critical piece, because it's a family issue where you two had been doing the Gun Rights Policy Conference for the Second Amendment Foundation and all their audio and video. And then when they had an opportunity for what was it, Deputy Director of New Media.
Deputy Director of New Media.
So when they had an opening for that, they hired your husband. And so
Correct.
You guys are now part of the Second Amendment Foundation family of employees, because they don't just hire one of you. You both come along as a package.
We're kind of a package deal.
You
We
are
are
a package deal. And so you guys are now a package deal for Second Amendment Foundation. And so that puts you in a whole different thing. So we'll come back to some of the other stuff that you do and are going to do. But Paul's studio is set up so that you, on Monday nights, Polite Society podcast, which is an hour and a half long show, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so 5 days a week, do the Daily Bullet. And then on Saturdays, there's a wrap-up that's the Weekly Bullet. Right?
Weekly Bullet.
Right.
Yep.
So,
and then on Sunday, he does video producing for your show.
He does for the Eye on the Target radio show.
The Target.
So he does not have a day off. There's no doubt about that. But
he does find time to bake cookies.
That's good, because I had, right before the show started, we'd had a little conversation with him, and he's like, "Okay, you go do the interview, and I'm going to eat cookies." So yeah, so we got the heads up on that. So
he has his choice tonight. He has ginger snaps, he has chocolate with peanut butter chips, and he has white chocolate macadamia.
There you go. I told him he can mail us cookies. We'll take care packages.
I'll go get the tin so we can mail them, because I don't need that many cookies.
There you go. So tell folks about hosting an event like the Mag 40, like Masad Ayub. I mean, he's an industry icon that you guys coordinated and brought to South Dakota, and then your student list came from, Ohio, because I was there, Massachusetts, Texas. Students came from all over the place to South Dakota, and I think that's probably most of their first trip to South Dakota, and for that class. So tell folks about how do you go about that, and why do you go about that?
It's hard to say how we do that, because nobody does a Mag 40 like Polite Society.
Mm-hmm.
We talk to Mass and Gal and say, okay, this is when we'd like to do it, and so we pick up a date. We start getting the word out on the podcast, on the Facebook page. Next time we have one, we've made some connections with one of the local radio stations, so we'll be getting some advertising on that. We already have people who are lined up. I have a waiting list of 6 people already if we get another one back to Sioux Falls. But Polite Society does a Mag 40 like nobody else does. Usually when you go to a Mag 40, it's, okay, eat breakfast before you get here. Make sure you bring something that, you can, a lot of places don't have refrigerators, so bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something that can sit out all day, and you can have that for a working lunch, and then you're on your own for dinner. We don't do that up here in South Dakota with the Polite Society. We usually provide breakfast, which is scrambled eggs and sausage and pancakes. And then we'll usually do lunch, which is submarines that I make for everybody, and chips and potato salad and macaroni salad that are homemade. And then one night one night we did pizza. What else did we do?
Oh, I don't know. There was so much stuff. I mean, there was
food every time you turn around. There's food. It's like Sue's coming with more food.
There was food, and then there was Masad Ayub talking, so much knowledge and information, and then the lineup of students was almost a who's who across the. I mean, because Rob Beckman came in, and so it
Charlie
was just
and Charlie Cook and you, Robin
Sandoval.
Sandoval.
Yeah, there was so many. I mean, and there were others that were equally Neil Widener. Um,
Yep.
there was just Natalie
And
Widener.
yep, and his
Yeah,
Natalie
the range. What do they
from
call her?
Active Self
The
Protection.
active
The range
self-protection.
monkey.
The range monkey. Yeah. So it was amazing, but it is. I mean, to me, Masad Ayub is an industry icon. That is a class that if you are a concealed carry holder, that you should consider, that you should take, and that you should learn from, because there's so much. I mean, today you and I saw that Kyle Rittenhouse was the jury came back and they declared
Not
him
guilty.
not guilty. But you think about all of the things that was thrown at him. Masad Ayub prepares the concealed carry holder for those things.
Right.
Talks about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what you should say, what you shouldn't.
When you should pull it, when you shouldn't pull your weapon,
Mm-hmm.
what you should say when, if you have to, what you should say afterwards, what you should not say, who you should talk to, who you should not talk to. It's the class is expensive. I will be the first to admit that. But the knowledge that you will gain from these classes, it's
It's
priceless.
priceless. It really is, because at that point it's what's your life worth, what's the rest of your
Yeah.
life worth, what's the rest of the assets in your bank account, because the legal people are going to drain that to its absolute bottom, and
Exactly.
mm-hmm,
Paul has taken a couple of Meg 40s, and I've taken one and sat
mm-hmm,
in on a couple when I'm in and out with food and
mm-hmm.
everything. And there is stuff I'm like, did he have that in the last class? I don't remember him saying that. I could He probably did, but there's so much there you can't absorb it all in
You
one
cannot.
class. But the way Mass and Gail run their classes is at the beginning of every class, they have everybody write write your email address down. And at the end of the class, they will hand this list out and say, you should take your notes, get them typed up, and then send them to Amanda. And Amanda will add her notes and get them typed up and send them back to you and on to the next person. So that by the time everybody is done, anybody who was in that class who wants to participate, they've all combined notes. So you've got notes from 20 different people, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody is bound to pick up something you missed.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it was a great thing, and it surprised me that South Dakota would be the place that we all traveled to. I mean, not that it was beautiful there, but it's not necessarily a. I mean, it is free America though, but it just is not necessarily the first place that I would be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go take a firearms class in South Dakota. But it was
Well,
easy to get in and out of. It was great.
the next time you come to South Dakota to take a firearms class, because I know there will be a next time, I've been talking with the Alliance. Did you get to the Alliance while you were here?
No, I did not.
Okay, the Alliance was right up by your hotel. The Alliance is used to be a gun range slash pawn shop
Mm-hmm.
that's fairly new. That is where we have moved all our veterans and military stuff. Um, the DAV is there, the VFW, the American Legion, all that stuff is right there in one building. It still has an active gun range, and I've been talking to them. They also have a grill and a bar, and I've been getting prices from them. Our next class will be held at the Alliance in a classroom, air conditioning, indoor bathrooms, and there's the grill right there. So we've already talked about taco bars for lunch.
Yay. Okay.
So that will be our next one.
It will be amazing. It will be great. So for people who are interested in hosting a gun class, what things should they consider And how, that it's got to be scary because you have to meet a minimum number of students or you're out financially.
Right.
It could financially hurt you. So how do you gird your loins, bite the bullet, and take that risk?
When Paul and I had our first one, before we said, "Yep, we're going to do this," we put a lot of feelers out. If we have a class, how would you be willing to? So we
Hmm.
started garnering support, and said, okay, well, we've got 10 people who have said they're going to. So we're going to contact these 10, tell them, look, we're working on a tentative date. This is what it's going to cost. Are you serious? Because if you are, we'll pull the trigger and go for it. If you're not, let me know. I'll move on to the next person. So once we knew that we would have enough people to cover the cost,
Hmm.
for Massad's fee
Right.
and travel and the cost of the range, Paul and I don't make anything on these. In fact, we're usually out money because we pay for all the food out of our own pocket. But once we have enough to cover the bare minimum of expenses, then we call Masada, Yub, and Gail and say, all right, let's set a date. So, but it is scary because you don't know what's going on. You've got people going, "Hey, I want in on this class. Oh, I don't want to pay that much though.
Hmm.
Is there any way I can get a cheaper price? No, you can't. So, okay, then you move on to the next one, or you get somebody who will say, "I want to take the class," and then 3 weeks later go, yeah, something's come up and I can't take the class, so I'm gonna need my money back. Okay.
Hmm.
So there's a lot to consider: the financial,
Hmm.
the logistics, where you're going to have it, how much is that going to cost, what is going to be associated with it. It's a lot to think about.
Well, yeah, you're right. And then trying to figure out who in the industry you're going to host. So Masad Ayub would be one. I mean, there's so many others that could be selected and brought in also. And you're trying to figure out the timing of how often do you do it and how much can your surrounding area absorb.
Right.
So yeah.
We've had Masada Yub up here twice. We've
Hmm.
had Bob Main and Ben Branham.
Hmm.
Um, modern, modern.
Modern
I don't.
modern self protection.
Mon, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyhow, it's
Okay.
just Bob and Ben.
Okay. Got it.
We've
Yeah.
had them up here. Kathy Jackson has been up here a couple of times
Mm.
before she
The
retired.
the
So
cornered
you just
cat.
kind of,
She's amazing.
yep, I
Absolutely
love Kathy.
amazing. Hmm.
So, but you kind of got to figure out who you'd like to see come up. And then
Hmm.
you got to kind of talk to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about having a class. What would your fee be?
Hmm.
And go, okay. So Bob charges this much, Kathy charges this much, Masada, you charges this much. Who can I afford right now? Start with some of the smaller ones, the ones that aren't as well known, and go with them and get your core people of your core group of people that are interested in taking classes and learning, and start with
Hmm.
them and say, okay, now in the next year we're thinking about getting Kathy Jackson to come in. Would you be interested in that?
Hmm.
Okay, great. So get them in on that, and then when they're done with that class, go thinking about having Masada Yub or John Correa with Active Self Protection come. Would you be interested in that? You just kind of because start small
Hmm.
and build up.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So let's move on to talk about AmCon. And AmCon, you cannot convince me that AmCon is not your brainchild. I
AmCon
believe.
is not our brainchild.
Yeah, no. It is you it would not have happened in the beginning if it had not been for you.
Gail Pepin.
Okay?
Gail Pepin called Paul and I and said, "Hey, they have the Pro Arms podcast, her and Mass, and said, I was just at this thing. It's called Podfest. She said, I thought it'd be interesting to go and see what other podcasters, how they do their stuff and what they're doing and maybe learn something and make some new people and do that. This class, it was a 3-day event. It was $900 for 3 days. and they did teach a lot of stuff, and they did the little breakout sessions and this and that, and Gail went to one of the breakout sessions, and everybody's like, okay, I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell us what your podcast is about. And they said, my blah, 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 blah. And Gail said, hi, my name's Gail Pepin, and I have a podcast about firearms. And they went, what? Guns? And basically ignored her and treated her like a pariah for the rest of the weekend. No one would speak to her. And she said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could start something like that specifically for Second Amendment people so they can learn how to do their podcast better, how they can get the word out better, and get things going.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that'd be pretty neat. She said, okay, I'm putting you and Paul in charge of it. And that's how AmCon came around. So
Okay.
the first year we did great. It was in Dallas, and we called Alan Gottlieb at Second Amendment Foundation and said, hey, got a project we're thinking about. This is what's going on. This is what we'd like to do. And Alan said, help you out all we can. How big of a room do you need? So we met, and you and Cheryl helped. We kind of roped you in and said, look, we need some, Paul's got to go down and start setting up equipment. So Tag, you're it. You're doing the MC this afternoon. So, and that's how AmCon came about, and it's grown little by little from there.
Mm-hmm. So this year, so it's alternative mass media is what it is, and so it's not just focused on podcasts, but it is on how to monetize and how to merchandise and how to do social media and how to take the Second Amendment media in all of its hairy little ways, and how to promote those so that that room could potentially have the next Cam Edwards or A.W.R. Hawkins or Tom Gresham. Those,
Right.
That's it, to get them with their feet on the ground so that the folks that are in the room who are doing something will teach others what they do and what they're good at, or what their superpower is, or what their skill set is. And it goes from there. But each person teaches the rest something special.
Well, and that's the big part of AmCon. AmCon usually piggybacks on GRPC because they're both sponsored by SAF.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually have AmCon on the Friday before, and then Friday nights and Saturday and Sunday morning is GRPC. But the big part of being AmCon is not only will you be taught stuff, you people like Yehuda Rimmer, who will teach you how to brand yourself and get you to say, but did you ask?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody will help me, but did you ask them? You'll learn stuff like that, but you'll also meet people who will be helpful in other ways. You'll be like, hey, when I was at AmCon, I met Amanda Suffecool. She does this little video thing called, Women for Gun Rights. Maybe if I call her or get a hold of her, she'll help me get my message out, or I can ask her questions about how I can do something like this. It's the networking there, the people you meet. Everyone is so friendly. They'll be like, yeah, sure, give me a call. I got no problem with that. So you can get the information. If you didn't get the information that day, everybody's willing to just give me a call. We'll help you out any way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that
and,
is the beauty of it. But
yeah,
regardless of whether it was Gail's idea, it would have gone nowhere except that it was a great idea had she handed it to someone else.
That's entirely possible. Paul and I are rather tenacious. Once you stick something in our way, we're like, you know what? We're either going to go over it, around it, or through it. Mm-hmm. But we're going.
We're going. Hang on to your hat, honey. Here we go.
Hang on to your hat, honey. We're going.
Exactly.
That life in our household is never dull.
Never dull. So let's move on to the next place that you're going to be in the industry. So I know that winter's coming in South Dakota, Sioux Falls, And
Not bad enough. I have not put my bike away yet. It's not coming this close. Not yet.
man, we've had snow. Have you had snow?
We have too.
Okay. Yeah.
Not much. You put the cover over over the spider. It snows a little bit. The next day it all melts. You pull the cover off.
You're good
You
to
go
go
riding
again.
some more. Good to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not riding right now. It's cold here in Ohio. Cold.
Yeah.
So January SHOT Show. So now as quasi employee of Second Amendment Foundation or employee plus one, something there, you're going to SHOT Show. And why don't you tell folks what that is? Because there's a lot of people that are in the industry or interested in being in the industry that don't quite know what SHOT Show is.
SHOT Show is pure chaos. It is the shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show. Hang on, I got my dog tangled up in my wires here. Paul, can you call him? Dude, where are you at?
Come here, buddy. Come on.
He's
on,
getting
dude.
all tangled up.
Come here. Come on.
And there's so much stuff for him to get. See, he comes into my office with me all the time. But there are so many wires here that he could get hooked on. It's crazy. All right, back to SHOT Show.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting, hunting, outdoor trade. It is 49 different levels of chaos. There are 3 floors of exhibitors and vendors. You see all the new stuff that's coming out, all the new guns, the new magazines, the new gear. You talk to all the different organizations that are there, all the veterans hunting and the veterans and the gun rights, and it's crazy. Paul and I usually, one year, we packed up the studio and drove it to Vegas and did nightly reports from SHOT Show. That was crazy. Now we've just decided this year I'm taking the camera. I'm going to be the camera person, apparently. So Paul will be doing interviews.
Apparently.
Yeah, I'm thinking next month after Thanksgiving, between the break between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm gonna get it out and learn how to do that.
Right.
I don't know how to run a camera, but I guess I better learn real quick. So it's never dull. Paul will be doing interviews. We'll both be setting up interviews with people. Some of the different gun right organizations, some of the new equipment and stuff. We'll be setting up interviews. We'll be doing those, filming those, doing range day. I love range day.
Yeah. So Industry
Always.
Day on the range is, we tracked it with my Fitbit. It was a
Yep.
mile long of range side by side by side by side on the loop up and
Hmm.
back. So that is how many different manufacturers, and they are packed in there as tight as they can possibly be with every brand new thing that is coming out. And they're like, here, want to try this? Here, want to try that? So you get to spend the day shooting someone else's ammo.
Right? That's always the good part.
Hmm.
I always like that part. So, but it's you meet a lot of people. You'll meet all the industry people. You'll meet all the gun rights people, the different organizations, and then you meet other people, the other 2A activists.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so there's
it's
media there, but the purpose is really it is the marketing show for the gun shops and the gun dealers and the
right.
buyers. So it really is a marketing and industry show where media and 2A influencers just happen to also come along,
It's sometimes not everybody can get into it.
right?
It like you said, it is for the industry. So in order to get into it, you have to present your credentials saying, yes, I'm qualified to be here. I have a good purpose, a good reason for being here. My mother can't go, hey, I think I'm going to go to SHOT Show this year. And she can't do that. You have to be able to prove that you've got a reason for being there, that you're a bona fide media or an exhibitor or a purchaser, or the average
Mm-hmm.
Joe off the street just can't walk into it.
Right. They can't say it's
But
a gun
some
show,
of
I
us,
want to go, but yeah.
right? Not like Wanamakers.
Mm-mm.
So
It's pretty amazing, and I am so ready
it is.
with 2 years of COVID lockdown. I am so ready to be
And
back out and moving around.
you're going to be on Radio Row this year.
Yeah, that is a major milestone step for us, for Eye on the Target Radio, and I believe at this point I am the only with Eye on the Target Radio. I am the only nationally syndicated female radio host that does a Second Amendment show.
Well, we'll be sure to stop by and say hi, Amanda.
There you go. So I really am pretty darned excited about it. So last year was supposed to be our first year on Radio Row, and with COVID, they did not have the event. So if they don't have it this year, I'm gonna just sit in the corner and cry. we'll just,
Okay,
we'll just
I'll
say.
send a handkerchief.
So it looks like all indications are that we're moving forward and that things are gonna happen there.
We talked to SAF yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a couple of exhibitors that have pulled out, but the majority of them are still there. And as
Mm-hmm.
of this point in time, it is still a go.
Yeah. So the some one of the things about Vegas is that Vegas is every week having an industry show for some industry. And so they are all still happening. So it's not like Vegas is going to stop them. And
No,
it's a singular company that's concerned, depending on where they are or what's going on in their state. But on the whole, and really, SHOT has more value for the up and coming companies than for the big guys, because everybody already goes to the big guys and knows the big guys, and so a press release from them rolls it out. But the littler guys don't have an opportunity to be seen. People don't know that they exist. And, as we talked earlier, name recognition matters. And so getting your name out there and just getting to where people see you. And frankly, they want people like you and I to talk about what they have and to send other people to their website and to start to try to get some kind of social media traction.
yep,
Yeah.
and that works for them, and I don't have a problem with that. If it's a product and I like it and I think it will be good, I have no problem talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if it's a product that I'm concerned about, I'll tell them first. If they really push it, I'll tell the world. that's kind of
Hmm.
how that's kind of how
Exactly.
that goes,
This
right?
is this is what I think is wrong with it and what I think you should fix. No, it doesn't need to be fixed. Okay, fine. Well, I'm going to tell the world that I don't like it because that's what needs wrong with it and it needs to be fixed.
Right. And in my
So,
opinion, yeah, exactly.
in my opinion, IMHO, in my humble opinion.
Opinion, exactly. So, is there anything else that you want the DC Project or the audience that is watching Women for Gun Rights for them to know about Susan Lathrop, about South Dakota, or about things that are coming up in the industry that you've got your crystal ball that's telling you?
My crystal ball is broke. Um, we're doing SHOT Show. We're looking at the legislative session coming up in January. Working on growing DC projects on a state level.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a couple of connections. I'm in the process of becoming an NRA instructor.
How cool.
And we're working on starting a girl and a gun club here in town. So I've made several connections through my NRA instructor teacher.
Mm-hmm.
For some people out in the Black Hills, so we're starting to spread out in that area, not just on East River, but we're working on spreading our little tendrils out West River too.
Nice. Nice.
So
So So you are starting down the journey of being a RSO, a firearms instructor. Which disciplines?
Firearms instructor.
Okay.
Right now, just handgun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic we need to start. There are a lot of women up here that I've talked to who don't, and I know you've known this. There's a lot of male instructors out there who, well, little lady, listen up. This is the way I think you ought to do it. And they're like, no, I don't want that. I want somebody. I want to be taught by a woman who knows what I'm talking about when I say it doesn't fit my hand right. And they'll be like, no, just get that grip up there a little bit. They don't want that. They want to be taught by a woman. And there aren't that many female instructors in this area. So that's part of why I went down that road to start a Girl and a Gun, because Robin and her group are fantastic people, and they have a lot of resources that I can use to help reach more women.
Oh, and it makes so much sense. So I was at a gun shop one time and I said something about a gun, and he was like, "You don't want that gun. It doesn't weigh anything. You know, it'll kick you so hard. So you want this big heavy gun over here, and it won't kick nearly as hard." And it was like, well, it'll pull my pants down, and I won't have it when I need it. So how about talk to me about the one I'm asking you about, sir?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way they are in the gun shops. That's the way a lot of them are on the range when they're instructing. Well, you're just learning. You're a woman. You're not really sure what you're talking about. So let me just do it this way, the way I tell you to. And then they're doing it wrong for years, and they see somebody else and they're like, "Why are you doing that way?" It's how I was taught. Well, you were taught wrong.
Right.
So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
that's and
I'm a big one to ask why. When you're telling me I
Yeah.
need to do this, why?
Yes, Kathy Jackson was a big part of that. When the last time she was up here, and I'm all for gun rights. I've not been a firearms enthusiast for that long. Kathy was up here 5 years ago, and I said, Kathy, I'm a little nervous. I don't really like guns. I know I'm a vet, and I shot a gun if I had to, but I'm not real big. She's like, you know what? We got some time today. Let's you and I go to the range and do some one-on-one. I learned more in that 3 hours at the range with her than I had in my whole last class I took before that.
I can believe it.
Because the way they explain it, and women have a tendency, we don't try to talk down to them.
Right.
We talk woman to woman and say this is this and this and this, and then it's like, gotcha, now I understand.
Right. Right. I had a gal who
And that's
came,
where I want to get.
and I think that's great. I had a gal who came to one of my classes and she said, "I'm a shooter, not a loader." She had never loaded a magazine. She had never loaded a gun, but she shot. But someone else would do all of that and then hand her the gun. And it was like, well,
No.
we're going to fix that today. And when you leave today, you're going to be both a shooter and a loader.
And a loader.
And you're going to understand how it works and the mechanics of it, and then you'll be way more comfortable. And so
Exactly.
that one was the one that stuck in my head, is I'm a shooter, not a loader. Yeah. So, well, Susan, I want to wish you the absolute best of luck as you start down your firearms instructor journey. Let me tell you, pretty soon you will have rifle, pistol, shotgun, personal protection, home firearm safety, right? Refuse to be a victim.
Whoa. One step at a time there.
And then Alice active shooter, and then the RSO. So I'm just gonna say that it's addictive. And once you learn one thing, you're like, I want to learn more.
And
I want to learn
more and
more.
more.
And the list is long. And each piece piles on to the next, and it builds, and it's great. It is absolutely great. So,
Okay.
so
Well,
folks,
I will look forward to that journey.
Oh, well, there you go. And anything that I can do to help you with it, As we said in
I
AMCON,
got-
just give me a call.
I got your number.
We're good. So, folks, we're gonna wrap up this session of Women for Gun Rights with Susan Lathrop from South Dakota. She is the DCProject State Director, and we haven't done this today, and we're going to, which is that Susan is going to be going to Washington, D.C. I am going to be going to Washington, D.C., as are 48 other women who are going to our nation's capital sometime in the summer to talk to our legislators. Those trips cost money. So if you cannot be an activist, you cannot be involved, we'd gladly go and represent you. And donations can be made at the website dcproject.info. And all of them are used to help fund the education, the training, and the travel for our gals to be able to go to DC, talk to our legislators. And in the last year, 5 of our girls have been asked to come back to DC to testify in House Judiciary, Senate Judiciary, in different hearings about the Second Amendment and aspects and issues associated with them. So the DCProject is making a huge difference. And these people, these gals, Women for Gun Rights, are the faces of the Second Amendment. And they are standing strong for your rights and for mine. So, Susan, thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to sign off now, and we'll see you all next week.
This is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.